It's almost 100 years since the Isle of Man government first closed its roads to the public and opened them to road racing, or rallying as we now understand it. And the tradition has a firm place on the Manx calendar, so much so that this is the first of 2 events here this year. Last time we visited was for the Manx International in September, when local hero Mark Higgins won in a Corolla World Rally car. But with a full schedule this year, especially on the British Championship, there's no drive for Higgy this weekend, so we've put him to work in his other job, behind the camera, asking all the relevant questions.
Marcus here on the Isle of Man, very fast event. How do you think your chance is going to be?
Oh, I'm not a tarmac man by any stretch of the imagination. We were looking forward to having a bit of fun with you, really, because you would have whooped everybody, I'm sure. But you know, I've been here 10 years, I think, and only finished twice. So the island's not only fast, it's also very unforgiving.
Kenny, it'd be fair to say coming here is probably one of the favourites to win the rally. How do you feel about it all?
I hope it goes better than last year, Mark. We did clip that big stone there that we weren't able to see, but thankfully they've cut the grass around it this year, so I think it's a bit easier.
Kenny's obviously quite strong in the Isle of Man, he knows it very well, but you had a good result in Cork with a brand new car. Have you had any more testing?
We've done a bit of testing and we've done a bit of alterations to the diffs and that, and the engine as well, and it seems a huge step forward from the Cork, so hopefully we can just keep it there somewhere.
2 days of rallying then, and today is the shorter of the 2. 5 stages, 33 miles of driving around the notoriously bumpy Manx lanes, though the start is a short 1.5 mile blast through Port Erin and away towards the coast, which Melvin Evans and the Subaru took steadily and were a couple of seconds down on the eventual leader, who was not Kenny McKinstry, contrary to popular expectation. He took it steadier still, 2 seconds off the pace set by Evans, to be only 19th fastest after the opening 1.5 miles of running, which was either a considered tactic or a bad omen. And the next 30 miles would reveal which of those it was to be. Third off the line, yet another of these very serious Subarus, Marcus Dodd was the man to beat through here. 1 minute and 53 seconds gave him an average speed around 45 miles an hour, but that was good enough to be in the top spot after this opening test on a glorious sunny evening. Andy Burton was 4th off the line, the dramatic Cosworth-powered Peugeot ripping the evening air to shreds as he recorded a time just half a second shy of Dodd to be 2nd fastest man through the stage. John Price has been campaigning a 6R4 since the day Moses came down off the mountain with the commandments, and he settled into a comfortable rhythm at once. Mark Perrott ought to be outclassed in this event by the sheer volume of posh new Subarus on the entry list, but there was little sign of that being the case. 5th fastest over the short first stage, he planted himself right in the middle of the pack with a lot of mirror watching to be done over the course of the next 2 days. Steve Petch has spent a fair bit of time behind the wheel of the Hyundai, and quite a lot of it here on the Isle of Man. Maybe that helped him get the setup he wanted from the word go, because he was 7th fastest on stage 1, just a couple of seconds off the pace of the leader, and looking good. Keeping up the Subaru presence on the leaderboard, David Mann was 3rd quickest, looking to avenge last year's robbery when a blown engine on the final stage of this event stole a certain podium finish in 2nd place and what was shaping up to be a strong last-ditch challenge for the win. Paul Bird made short work of the first stage, pushing the Hyundai up to 4th place on the leaderboard, just 1 second behind 1st place Marcus Dodd.
60 downhill into hairpin left, tightens through buildings. And 5 right, keep in. And keep middle over crest, 150 past crossroads, and 2 right over small crest.
This was a good introduction to the island, straight out of Port Erin and up into the hills for a taste of what lay ahead this evening. On board with another local hero, Rob Watson had a good drive in the International last year and was now leading his class and 15th overall.
Ooh. And right 4 tightens over crest. Absolute left and right 5 tightens. Absolute left and right. 40, absolute left. Absolute right over crest. 50, absolute crest long. Crest centre, absolute left. Crest, jump, keep right. 80, cut left, right 4, left 4, and absolute left. Left 4, sorry Rob, that was no problem.
The next 2 stages lead up through the old mine workings at Glen Rushen, but Damien Cole didn't get the chance to enjoy the spectacular switchback of stage 3 to the full. He had no brakes from stage 2 onwards.
Like 5 narrows. Hell, I can't f***ing believe it. Whoa, straight down the road. It's all right. You can't drive it like this and pack it in.
David Canaston dropped swiftly out of the top 20 as the evening went on, an evening which signalled the start of a troubled weekend.
60 to left 3 over crest bump. 80 past junction, keep it going. Left 3, mid 200, keep it going. Caution crest jump, keep mid, and right 3 over crest.
Damien Cole was still struggling along without brakes, still scaring his co-driver and having to let faster cars through as he dropped down to 100th place on the leaderboard. And Sean Fox, driving us here, climbed to 24th after starting at number 39. After blowing 2 engines within yards of the start, Foxy was glad to be let off the lead at last, perhaps a bit too glad. Though the overshoot didn't cost him too much time, though he was already beginning to find the brake pedal a little bit too long for this kind of pace. 3 stages into the event and Steve Pett found himself at the wrong end of an intensely competitive top 10, though it was still all about mere seconds. Just in front of him, by a margin of 5 seconds, was the 6R4 of Tony Davies, level pegging on the leaderboard with the escort of Phil Collins, which was being driven in the appropriate style, swinging its tail end like a catwalk model in 7th place, 2 seconds behind David Mann. The Subaru driver had been 3rd, but now he was 6th as the rally began to get into its stride, the damp roads giving all the drivers a little headache. As ever on wet and dry tarmac, tyre choice was the name of the game, and those who got it right prospered. Those who didn't dropped down the leaderboard, from 1st place to 5th place in the case of Marcus Dodd. In 4th place, Mark Parrott was making the escort work for its living as they became the filling in a very thick Subaru sandwich. Starting at number 40, Gareth Jones had leapt up into 3rd place. And then number 2 here, Kenny McKinstry had shot up from 19th after stage 1 to be 2nd after stage 3, climbing 17 places on the leaderboard in just over 10 miles of competition, and now right on the leader's tail. There was less than a second in it, but Melvin Evans was the leader, up 9 from 10th place to head the leaderboard by a narrow margin.
40, 2 left, 40, flat right over crest, 50 through dip, into 3 left. 50 over crest and dip, into 2 left, 80 up middle, 1 right, and 2 left over crest and big jump went in, 2 right, 80, flat right.
Any problems so far for you? We've got a slight problem with the turbo, it's locked up in the boost, so it's pushing on and we're warming the brakes a bit too much, but carry on and see how we get it.
2 more stages before the overnight halt, the last one very long indeed at 16 miles, and the sun was sinking slowly in the west. A perfect setting for the showdown ahead as Kenny McKinstry chased after Melvin Evans, though the leaders would probably not see full darkness before the finish.
And 1 right and turn hairpin left. $80, 1 left, 50 over crest. 60, flat left over crest continues, past sign.
McKinstry made his big push on the final stage of the day and put Evans 2nd by 30 seconds, but everyone else was much of a muchness, leaving Marcus Dodd 5th a few seconds ahead of David Mann, with Phil Collins and the escort almost 20 seconds further back, ahead of Steve Petch, John Price and Rob Watson, a fine 10th.
50, left 5, right 5 and left 5 tightens.
Still don't know how much grip's here.
This was stern stuff for the little Nova, up to its door handles in four-wheel drive rally cars, even though it was almost 2 minutes behind the rally leader. Just outside the top 10, Bob Foden with the only Mitzi in the top 20.
150, one right. And one right long. 250 uphill, keep left over crest.
Paul Bird was 13th, caught with the wrong tyres on damp tarmac earlier and now charging for a decent overnight slot.
Small crest at junction, 60, one left, into 5 left at lane.
Ollie O'Donovan demonstrates the effect of evening dew on dry tarmac, combined with hard tyres and a little bit too much gas. Service with a smile for Kenny McKinstry. He's got 40 seconds in hand over his nearest rival, and though there are 8 more stages tomorrow, that's a big psychological barrier for anyone to climb first thing in the morning. Gareth Jones has sprung into third behind Melvin Evans. Tony Davies looking good in fourth, another Metro 9th and a Nova in 10th, and that's Rob Watson.
Kenny, end of leg 1, you've just came out of the last stage. It looks like you've taken 34 seconds on them there. You must be quite pleased.
Yeah, it was a difficult stage because we started off, stage was quite wet, and we were on RE tyres, which is a fairly cut tyre. And about 2 mile into it, it started to dry out quite a lot. So it was trying to preserve the tyres and trying to go as hard as we can at the same time. But I must say it was very enjoyable.
8 tests tomorrow, one of them 20 miles in length, but it's kick-off at 9, so at least there's time for an early night and a good sleep. It's day 2 of the Manx National Rally, and 3 stages make up the first part of the morning, just over 26 miles in all. We're in typical Manx countryside with all the pitfalls these narrow lanes and constant hairpins can bring. Paul Bird easily rejoins after an overshoot, a few seconds lost, but at least the engine stayed running and there wasn't more time ticking away for a restart, often tricky when a racing engine is at full temperature.
And through grid, into junction, 3 left over bump and hairpin left. 3 left and hairpin left. And 4 right.
17th on the overnight leaderboard, Steve Quine was easily top of his class as he climbed up to be 15th heading into service after stage 8, on a leaderboard which still had more escorts and 6R4s than Evo 6s. Bob Foden was still the only Mitsubishi in the top 20, running in 12th place overnight, although he was another minute behind the leader after stage 8. And Rob Watson was still hanging on in 10th place in the Nova, putting local knowledge to best use in an unequal struggle with much bigger cars.
60 absolute right.
Well done, Sean.
Yeah. 70 downhill, absolute left. 130 at seen. F***ing hell. Crest. And right 6 and absolute left. Absolute crest 50. Cut left but absolute right over crest. 50 through dip. Right 6 tightens. 50 grid. Left 5 long tightens. Absolute left 50. And left 3 long over finish. You magician. That was ace. Scared the life out of me there, you
I'm doing this wrong places. It's getting the life out of me.
And Watson wasn't the only one having to try hard to keep up this morning. Phil Collins had the escort more or less on the limit as well.
Jeez, was it scary. Absolutely full sideways. I just thought we were going to hit the bank, and he just came. We have just got some grass in the bank, have we?
Just a little bit of grass, no damage.
Really, really close. A little lesson.
Gareth Jones had swept into 3rd place overnight, but he dropped down one this morning and was now running 4th. after swapping places with David Mann on the last of this group of 3 stages. Mann had passed Marcus Dodd into 4th place on stage 6, but then Dodd had retired after stage 7 with mechanical problems in any case.
There's a lot to lose in there.
It's always very easy to throw it away, take a wheel off or something, isn't it, in there?
Yeah, that's right. It's nice to get that one out of the way.
Flat left, 70, flat crest, 60, flat right, 60, 1 right continues, into 1 right, and crest into flat left, 80, flat right, keep in.
Second overnight by 40 seconds. Melvin Evans was second after stage 8, but the gap now was out to almost a minute and there seemed to be no real answer. Kenny McKinstry had piled on almost a second a mile in the first 3 stages of the morning, and he was now in the comfort zone where he could afford a puncture, an overshoot or an unlucky tyre choice. For him, the pressure was off, and this was now looking like a steady run home through the last 5 stages of the day. 20 minutes for service back in Douglas and then out into the lanes for stages 9 and 10. But with no real dramas, this was a time to refuel the Scooby and polish the windscreen, take a cup of tea and a sandwich and assess the situation. Nothing really to worry about.
Everything okay with the car so far?
Yeah, the car's good, no problems at all. It's been fairly good. We're just stiffening it up a little bit. The next 2 stages are quite long ones, so we're going to maybe chance a harder tyre and see if it works a little bit better.
Melvin lying second at the moment. Kenny seems to be just going that little bit harder, but can you hold off David behind you?
Well, I hope so. We were the first stage last time out was we took 2 out of Kenny, but the last and the ones afterwards he just went way ahead, you know. We seem to be understeering a lot of the front of the car, so we change into a harder compound tyres and alter the front diff settings, and hopefully we can get a little bit quicker. But really, championship wise, we've got a bit of a lead in that, so we should look after that, I think.
David, you had a great start to the morning. You moved up to 3rd place. Any problems?
No, it's gone really well this morning. We're a lot happier with the tyres. We got them bedded in, and I'm getting the feel of the grip now. And we went well over the Baldwins and Drurydale, which is one of my favourite stages.
Stage 9 was the longest of the whole rally, all 20 miles of it. And this was the time to give it maximum. But Gareth Jones was already running into trouble and heading for retirement. And he wasn't alone. Although this little moment didn't do the Audi any harm, and David Canaston stayed in his position on the leaderboard.
Right 5, tightens.
But there was a problem which slowed the car to an eventual stop. Luckily, it turned out to be nothing more drastic than a broken throttle cable. With mole grips judiciously applied to the frayed ends, the crew carried on and made it back to service, where proper repairs were straightforward enough. Tony Davies was doing a good job of upholding Metro honours. The highest place 6R4 was now in 4th spot, almost 2 minutes behind the leader and just about half that amount, 54 seconds, away from a podium finish. In 3rd after 10 stages was Melvin Evans, having lost a place to David Mann on stage 9, although not for the want of trying. But the damage had been done on that long 20-miler, compounded on stage 10, and the gap between him and 2nd place was now 20 seconds. David Mann tried a late charge here 1 year ago, but the engine blew on the final stage. Now he was doing it again, and he was taking big chunks out of McKinstry's lead. The gap between them had been 1:13 after stage 8, but McKinstry was having problems, probably gearbox. And the margin had come down to 43 seconds after stage 9. Now, after 10 stages, it was 32 seconds, and what had been a comfortable lead was clearly under very real threat. At service, the crew adopted a radical approach to underbody repairs, and that seemed to have done the job. He only lost 3 seconds on stage 11. But then on stage 12, it all went horribly wrong again, and McKinstry was limping towards the finish, pulling over to make way for faster cars.
Kenny, you've dominated this event, but unfortunately you're here and the rally's not quite over yet.
That's right, you can go fast on a lot of the stages, but you need to do them all, you know, and On the second last stage we broke a drive shaft which knocked off the pipe on the power steering, and we probably dropped a minute and a half, so there wasn't a lot of point, you know, in doing that last stage. There's quite a lot of bumps and turns in it, and without power steering it's a bit silly, you know, to finish 4th or 5th. Like.
Retirement must have been bitter for Kenny McKinstry with one more stage to go, but everyone else moved up one place, putting Tony Davies and the Metro on the podium.
King right left over bumps, 80, 1 right over crest and 2 left over bad jump.
Now in second place, Melvin Evans was 20 seconds behind the new rally leader with 11 miles left to run and played it safe, while David Mann did just enough to keep his lead and the gap stayed at 26 seconds. There's the final result then. McKinstry nowhere to be seen, nor Gareth Jones, but David Mann and Melvin Evans both have plenty to celebrate here.
David, fantastic result, your first national win, you must be delighted.
Yeah, I'm really, really chuffed. We've had so many times coming second, so it's great to get the win today.
Yesterday didn't go so well for you, but you've really picked up the pace today. Any major reasons for that?
We got our heads down and the tyres were working well this morning. I've had a good feeling with the car and the suspension and everything today.
Melvin, great result, winner here last year, but just didn't quite get it this time.
No, we didn't, unfortunately, but it was a good battle, and in all fairness to David Mann, he drove well midday today, and suspension, the car's been a bit too hard. It's a bit of a learning curve for us, but we can't complain being second and maximum points in the championship.